I'm no snob. I don't mind remakes of popular or well-known games or movies as long as there's something to be improved upon. My problem stems from when developers take a game that deserves a bit of modern-day love and screws it up. Rockstar. I'm also not the kind of guy who supports remakes if there's nothing inherently wrong with the original, but for the most part, I remain indifferent. The Resident Evil 4 remake is right around the corner as of writing this and is probably already going to be out by the time this video goes public, but regardless, I am hyped for it because in my opinion, it is a game that deserves a remake. Now the release of the remake made me think, damn, I wonder what other remakes I'd want to see in the coming future. And with that, I bring you my top 10 most wanted remakes. This refers to from the ground up remakes, nothing of the simple HD remaster variety. So without further ado, let's get into it! Number 10. The SpongeBob Squarepants movie game. Hey guys, welcome to my childhood. So this is an oddball, a random licensed game from 2004 as the first entry on your wanted remakes list. Well, I'm serious. Battle for Bikini Bottom was a game that the vast majority of people thoroughly enjoyed and deserved a remake for the modern generation. Sadly, the ball was kind of dropped and it was half-baked. But with the release of the Cosmic Shake, it was shown that the creation of a good modern SpongeBob game is possible. Anyways, back to the movie game. The game was created by the same folks as Battle for Bikini Bottom, Heavy Iron Studios, and while the movie game isn't as well beloved or recognized as its predecessor, it still managed to be a fun time that was also, for the most part, faithful to the film. Now, I understand licensing and remaking a game from 2004 based on a movie from the same year is a risky move in terms of marketing, but remember, this is all hypothetical. The game, of course, has some jank similar to Battle for Bikini Bottom that would hopefully be ironed out, pun definitely intended. For this remake, it's not needed because it's obscure, which is why I threw it here at the bottom of the list. Number 9. Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem. Now, although this is a game that could fit under the HD remaster title, I think doing that would age this game further. This is a cult classic GameCube-era horror game that sold poorly in its initial run, but gained popularity once people in the future realized how genuinely scary the game is. The most recognizable aspect of the game is the way it messes with not just the game's character's perception of reality, but also the player's, the most infamous of these being when the game deletes your save file, or when it begins to mess with your TV's settings. This also stands out because it was on a console that wasn't great in terms of its sales and remained an exclusive to it as opposed to being able to branch out to the more successful consoles of the era. This has also, unfortunately, led the game's price to be raised to absurd amounts on eBay, which alienates people from trying to buy it and play it, unless they're already familiar with the game. Personally, I first played the game on the Dolphin emulator and thought it was great, but the biggest W about remaking this game would be to modernize the game's illusions, so that if people do play the game in the modern day, they're not confused about why their 2019 17-inch flat screen starts showing a 2003-era CRT TV menu. This game deserves a remake because in some ways it's outdated, it's ultimately underrated, and the graphics are quite faded. Ooh, bars! Overall, people deserve to experience this underappreciated psychological horror masterpiece. Number 8. Grand Theft Auto: Vice City. Now I know for a fact I am not alone in my want for this game to receive the remake treatment. I think it is the most desired Grand Theft Auto remake of them all, excluding San Andreas, but that game's already perfect. Vice City, which is what I'll be calling it for the sake of my sanity, is one of the black sheep non-numbered entries in the Grand Theft Auto series that I do not hear many people talking about, similar to something like Liberty City. Which is similar, is also underrated, but I didn't grow up with it, so it didn't make the list. So kick brick, shitface! Anyways, Vice City was one of the games butchered in the GTA Definitive Edition remasters, so if it were to get a remake, it would be the second chance that the game deserved, not being shoved into a jumbled mess of half-baked HD remasters that are not only outdone by previous re-releases, but also get knocked into oblivion by the games that they desperately tried to skin alive and replace. Sorry, I'm just bitter. Vice City has one of, if not the best settings and just overall vibes of any of the GTA games, and I would love to see its world with all the dynamic lighting and excellently rendered environment. Rockstar has always had a knack for creating lived-in and excellently designed worlds, so I think having Vice City as a template for a modern game would do them some good. The story is also one of the main reasons that the fanbase clamors for a remake of this game, because a story this good deserves some graphical and frankly, auditory improvements. There's more I'd like to say about Vice City, so maybe one day I'll make a video about the game. But as a whole for now, for time's sake, I'll leave you alone with this. Rockstar, if you remake Vice City, please keep Ray Liotta. I know he's dead, but like, isolate his audio from the original game and just put it in the new one. That's fine. Number 7. Ape Escape. Okay, so first of all, this entry in all honesty applies to the entire original trilogy. It has been joked about and legitimately requested for a few years now, but many Ape Escape fans would love to have a modern day insane trilogy styled remake of the original games. So if a lot of what I'm talking about sounds regurgitated from other video game people, I apologize. Ape Escape is one of those games that everyone talks about, but I never see anyone play. That's relevant, however. Second off, I have only played the first Ape Escape on PS1, so that's what I'm going to refer to for simplicity's sake. Third off, this game deserves remake because it's good and suffers from early PS1 game jank and cheese. Ape Escape is a quirky little 3D platformer with a cute gimmick and a story that's a fine representation of the games from this era. Bright, colorful, and cutesy platformers that appeal to the masses. From a visual standpoint, the game has aged just fine, it's really impressive for the time, yada yada yada. I want it in 4K. That is the only reason I want this game to get the remake treatment. It's old, and I want to see it in HD. And it's one of those games that isn't released often and is hard to play. Are these shallow reasons? Oh yes, absolutely. There's no denying that. But are they valid? Of course, because all opinions are valid. Well, not all. Number 6. The Simpsons Hit and Run. So we've come back to the idea of licensed video game remakes, but not just any licensed video game remakes, really good and well-regarded licensed video game remakes. This is a game that has a slew of reasons to be remade, mostly boiling down to the fact that at times the game is repetitive and infuriating, mostly during the later parts of the game. I'm looking at you, Lisa Simpson. The game also suffers from the graphics not aging well, although this probably stems from The Simpsons not really looking great in 3D anyways. It would be smarter for them to render the characters in the cel-shaded style that was used for The Simpsons video game, which released a while later and has graphics that have held up a hell of a lot better. Simpsons video games have been scarce, and by scarce I mean they haven't been a thing since the travesty that was Tapped Out. Now, although in recent years I've been more focused on a re-release of The Simpsons arcade game, however, Hit and Run is a childhood favorite that's rough around the edges and deserves some more modern touch-ups that would fix the minor hiccups that hold the game back from licensed perfection. Basically do what Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated should have done, but not disappointing. Number 5. Mario and Luigi, Partners in Time. Elephant in the room. Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey was an unnecessary, undeserved, undercooked, nobody asked, L+ ratio, bullshit remake. Bowser's Inside Story is held in such a high regard and is considered one of the best Mario RPGs alongside TTYD. So why, in the 9 layers of hell, would you want to remake it? Especially considering it was on a console where the original game was already playable. Now why do I bring this up? Well, it's simple. Partners in Time was the game that was considered meh when it was released, so in theory, wouldn't it make sense to remake the game with some more poopy aspects instead of remaking the one that everyone considered sacred? Of course not. Welcome to Nintendo. Partners in Time is a really good game, but I understand why it's considered one of the weakest entries in the Mario and Luigi series. It suffers from a lack of frequent plot development, essentially. It's very rare for the plot to advance outside of gameplay. The game also suffers from some botched mechanics, mainly the bro attack system. Having to buy each bro item wasn't a good choice, and it makes the game very easy to cheese. The game also has some half-baked mechanics, especially regarding the baby Marios. They feel underutilized in their own game and mostly serve as add-ons to the main adult brothers rather than 2 different playable characters. Overall, and I feel like I've said this 4,000 times in this video alone, but this is a good game. A great game, even. Though even the weakest entry in a series deserves a second chance to shine. Number 4. The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons / Ages. Bet you didn't know I gave a damn about The Legend of Zelda. These GB Zelda games are top-tier handheld adventures that I look at with the same respect as A Link Between Worlds, aka my favorite Zelda game. Honestly, I'm surprised it ended up in the top 10, but, you know, we don't rank here. Now, the Oracle games have one major difference between them. Ages is more focused on puzzles, while Seasons is more focused on combat and action. Now, a remake could either bundle the 2 games together, or combine the games into one and find a good balance of action and puzzle solving. Just like every other Zelda game. I could see a mashup Legend of Zelda Oracles game in the style of the Link's Awakening remake being a really solid game, especially with the really charming visuals that the Link's Awakening remake introduced. There is a really clear path for Nintendo to follow with a remake idea like this, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is one remake on this list that actually happens. Number 3. Resident Evil. So I definitely need to explain myself with this one. First of all, I must preface that I do really like the original Resident Evil remake from 2002. It is an incredible remake and as of now is the definitive way to play the original game. But the remake does not fall in line with the now 3 modern remakes, and that is all I want. Resident Evil 1 is the definition of a horror classic, and it deserves to have a version that exists that falls in line with the ones from the modern era. As I said, the 2002 remake is fantastic in recreating, representing, expanding, and improving on the original's atmosphere, tone, visuals, and gameplay. I'd just love to see the Spencer Mansion be recreated in a similar way that the RPD was recreated in Resident Evil 2 remake. Sticking to the original remake as a base for the new remake, featuring content like Lisa Trevor and the Crimson Heads, as well as featuring extra content from the Saturn, Director's Cut, and DS versions. Similar to how I described the Oracle remakes, combine all of the best aspects of previous versions of the games, as well as what makes the modern remakes so good, mix it all into a bowl, hold for reveal.
Resident Evil.
Number 2, Silent Hill 2. Okay, so yeah, now you can tell how long this video has been in production. The Silent Hill 2 remake hadn't been announced yet. To be fair, this was originally going to be at the number 7 spot, but since it isn't a Silent Hill 2 segment, it's at number 2. So now with that being said, number 2, Silent Hill. The original Silent Hill is one of, if not the least archived game in the series, probably due to it being the only one released on the original PlayStation. The original Resident Evil series had a long run on the original PlayStation, so it had plenty of opportunities in the future to be remade or ported to a new console. However, this may have something to do with the fact that Resident Evil, unlike Silent Hill, hasn't been stuck in legal limbo for the last God knows how long. Silent Hill is the other influential PS1 horror game that hasn't had the chance to be brought into the modern era. I mean, for Christ's sake, I can count the number of ports this game had on one hand. Silent Hill 1 is underappreciated, and it is and always will be considered a classic, but unlike its follow-up games, it hasn't gotten the chance to be brought into the modern era. Even 2 and 3 got really rushed and really shitty Xbox 360 ports. Why didn't the original? Oh yeah, because it's a stinky PS1 game with polygons and bad voice acting. One day, Silent Hill, one day you will rise from the ash and be reborn as the game you deserve. The sad thing is that the closest thing to a Silent Hill 1 remake is Silent Hill Shattered Memories, and that game is a big old serving of mid. Like I've said before, in typical WatchMojo.com fashion, I'm going to list off some honorable mentions before getting to my top pick. A Source 2 remake of Half-Life, Super Mario Sunshine, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Pokemon Gold and Silver in a Let's Go style, Silent Hill 3, Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex, and lastly, as not to prolong this video any further, Shrek 2. Don't judge me. And finally, my number 1 spot, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. This game sucks balls, but didn't have to. Sonic 06 is remembered and hated for its god-awful story, game-breaking bugs, and mechanics that are broken by pure design.
What is this? Get off! What is this?
But damn it, this game had some serious potential. My wanting this game to be remade stems entirely from an old Sonic modding project that aimed to remake every Sonic stage from Sonic 06 in the style of the modern Boost formula games. These stages in concept and design aren't terrible, they were just paired with bad controls and glitches that hindered people's enjoyment of them. The story for this game is really dumb, but that's mostly because of the writing and execution. Insert overused bestiality joke. All this game needs is a second chance. Every other remake on this list is of a genuinely good game that may be a little rough around the edges. But not this one. This game needs to be remade and overhauled. There's a game here. A game that at the very least could be better than Forces, and a little bit worse than Colors. I genuinely mean that. I know this remake will never happen, and I know this game is without a doubt one of the worst Sonic games, or heck, even one of the worst games ever. But there is untapped potential here. There is an adventure here with a mix of a good hub world and unique and varied levels. You just gotta polish it. Godspeed, Sonic 06. May Sega have mercy on your miserable existence. Wow, that was a long one, or at least it felt like it. Thanks for sticking around to the very end. This video was a doozy. If you have any video game remakes that you'd like to see that I left out of this list, please tell me in the comments below. I know I had some oddball picks on this list, but hey, it's all my opinion. Don't hate me for it. Please? If you like this video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. Ugh, I hate saying that. Have a good day, and thank you very much for tuning in.